fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From Hate Arbitration. I'm going to have a short episode today. Today is my anniversary, and so I'm going to have a short episode so I don't get put in the doghouse. But there's a couple of things I want to cover. Now, I will have an episode again tomorrow. I'll have the Wolf, James Henry, on with me. He's going to talk to y'all a little bit about what's going on contractually. We got collective bargaining going on. They're on lockdown. So he's going to come on just for a little bit and talk about that. Wednesday, I'm going to have another episode. Tyler Vassar from Build a Fighting NELC is going to come on Wednesday talking about some resolutions that they've come up with. And I will also have some more things I'm going to talk about as well Wednesday. Some things that have come into me. But there's two things in particular that I want to touch on today, all right? And so I'm going to cover those. Will not be a long episode, but again, I'll have another episode Tuesday with the Wolf, and Wednesday, Tyler Vassar, all right? Now, if anybody wants me to go over resolutions or they want to come on here and talk about the resolutions, just reach out to me, okay? Just reach out to me, and you can come on, or I'll read your resolution on here, all right? But Tyler's going to come on Wednesday and do that. But got my anniversary today. My beautiful bride and I are going to go out and enjoy ourselves. Now, Tracy, the first time I saw her was back in 1984. I've got a cold, so you have to forgive my voice. 1984 was the first time I saw her. We were at church, and she was a visitor. I remember looking over there at her and thinking, my God, she's gorgeous. And it was one of those situations where she was so pretty, you're thinking, there's no chance in hell I will ever have a chance at going out with that girl right there. And after the church service, I was with all my friends. Her friend, a girl named Amy Darks, came over and said, hey, I'm Amy Darks. And, hey, very good to meet you. She's like, I've got a friend with me, and she thinks you're cute. And I was like floored that would ever come my way. You know, because it was one of those things where it's like the homecoming queen and the nerd. I mean, that's what I felt like being around Tracy. She was that beautiful. And so, yeah, we kind of sparked it off a little bit. She was my very first girlfriend back in 1984. And the last time I saw her face was June 19th, 1986. And I remember that when we started talking again, I told her that, and you could tell by the look on her face, she's like, what? How do you remember that? But I had a car wreck that damn near killed me. June 18th, 1986. And I remember that like it was yesterday. It was a Wednesday. And it was after we were in the youth group. And it was after that, a friend of mine, Donald Spencer, and two girls were going to go swimming at night. And I had dropped them off to go get their bathing suits on. And a car hit me from behind. I was in a Volkswagen, an off-road Volkswagen, and it was one we'd go mudding in, and this car hit me going, the police said estimated 65 miles an hour. I was sitting still, and the kid that hit me went to school with us, named Shell Summerlin, and he went to school with us, and I remember they were drunk. They got out and took off running. I remember that, but it knocked me through the back windshield. It tore my seat out. Knocked me through the back windshield. My head was busted up. Still got a huge scar on my arm from it. And Donald Spencer, who had gotten a scholarship to play baseball at Florida State, it bruised his brain. And still to this day, he's not right. Matter of fact, he came over to my house. It was probably 15 years ago. And he had found my location, called me and asked if he could come over. I've not seen him in years, and he came over and sat in my den and asked me what happened. That's how much it messed him up. So obviously he didn't get to go play baseball, but he talked to me about what happened on that day. You're talking about something happened 20 years ago at the time. But so anyway, the next day, June 19th, 1986, my dad comes and wakes me up, and I had real long hair, so I looked like Prince because I had a white gauze around my head where they had to take all that glass out of the back of my head, and my hair was still real long, but they shaved that part of my head. And so I had curly hair hanging over the front to look like, I swear it looked like Prince. And my dad woke me up and he's like, "Hey, Corey," he said, "you got some visitors downstairs." I was like, "Okay." He said, "Just warning you." He said, it's contentious. I said, "All right, what is it?" He's like, "Well, it's all your old girlfriends are down there." And so I walked downstairs and this room full of my old girlfriends. And so I sit down, and they're going at each other. Well, I'll never forget a knock on the back door. I go to the back door, and it's Tracy. Now, we hadn't been together, for over a year. And so I walk her out. I wouldn't let her come in, get around those other girls. And so she handed me a card, and that's the last time I saw of her, and until just a few years ago. But I was going on an arbitration. I'd been divorced for a while at the time, and a buddy of mine was going to arbitration with me. We were on a road trip, and we were just talking like you do. And he said, "Hey, man, I was at the mall the other day, and somebody came up and put their hands around my face, from behind and said, 'Guess who?' And, of course, I couldn't guess. I turned around. He said, 'Man, it was this girl that I went to high school with.' And he said, 'I was crazy about this girl. I had a huge crush on her.' Kind of the same situation. He's like, just one of those girls you would never approach. You would never ask out because you weren't good enough." And he said, we were talking right there, and he said, I told her that. She's like, "Well, you should have asked me out. I'd gone out with you." And he's like, "No, you wouldn't have." But he said, "Did you ever have that girl, in high school, just the one?" I said, "Oh, yeah, it's Tracy Watson." And so I said, "Matter of fact, I'm going to look her up on Facebook." And so I looked up, and there she was. Of course, she was married at the time, so I didn't reach out to her. But and then it was sometime later, I looked her up. She had put a profile picture up. That's what it was. And so I just commented on it and said, "Hey, you hadn't changed a day since the 80s. And she messaged me, and I looked, and she had since been divorced for about a year. I didn't know that. And so, yeah, we started dating and married not long after that. And so, yes, that's a fantastic story, man, but I'm blessed. And so, yeah, it's our anniversary today, so I'm going to get through this pretty fast. Talk about a few things. Went to Branch 3, Buffalo, New York. James, Kamitra, and I went up there. Now, that's David Groskopf's branch. When we take over, when James and the CLC wins, that branch is one that you would kind of mimic from top to bottom. It's a branch that you would kind of mimic about what you want. Now, David, if you've heard him on here several times, he is a fighter. He fights everything. As a matter of fact, he had the SNDC, and if y'all remember, and he had sought help from National, and they would not help him because we had conceded the SNDC over all these places. And he did not. He fought it and won. And I've always said, fight it. Win or lose, you got to fight it. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. If you lose, they're already doing it. You didn't lose anything. You just lost a grievance, but they're already doing it. You win everything. You lose nothing. And so he fought it. He got all kind of politicians involved, and they beat it. And he's got great stewards. He's got great advocates, an all-around fantastic branch. So we went there and spoke with them, had a fantastic time, a lot of love, a lot of support for the movement that's going on right now. And so that was a fantastic time to be with David and his branch. And, of course, we were competing against the hockey team, so we were thinking there's going to be like 20 people show up. But we had a good group, man, a really good group. And then this past weekend, we went to Van Nuys, California, and it's Heart of the Valley Branch 2462, and they had their 100-year anniversary picnic for their branch, and there's about 300 people. And another fantastic time. Got to speak to them. Another group that's excited about what's coming with the CLC when we take over. The potential there. Those individuals are on fire for change. Everybody is. And so that's refreshing to see that. So many people coming up excited about the change that's coming with the CLC when we take over. And so it's energizing. You fly all the way out there, 300 people. Family, and I address the spouses, telling them thank you for what y'all put up with us. You know, all the missed dinner dates, all the missed birthdays, all the missed movie nights, all the family pictures that were in our uniform because of this job, the sacrifice that our spouses have. And so I address the spouses, telling them thank you for everything that they've done and that they put up with us. Because, you know, you can plan on going to dinner and you're calling within 15 minutes of getting to work, said, hey, I'm not going to get home about 8. You know, shit's just gone downhill since I got here. So, yeah, 2 fantastic spots. Now, we'll be in Milwaukee this weekend. Now, if you remember, I'd put that out there the other day, and Rob Kozier's heading that up, and he still has tickets. Now, he's got over 200 signed up just for the tailgate. The tickets to the baseball game are already sold out, but he's got over 200 signed up for the tailgate alone. And so it's May 24th. It's the 6th annual Milwaukee Brewers, Los Angeles Dodgers. May 24, 2026, James Henry and I'll be there. Kind of a meet and greet type thing. Come and talk to us, meet us. It's $20 for the tailgate only. $20 for the tailgate only. The tailgate starts at 10:30 a.m. 10:30 a.m. The game time is at 1:10. It's got food and drinks included, a 50-50 raffle. Great day of baseball. It's call or text Rob to reserve. So you're going to call or text Rob to reserve. The number is 414-379-7350. 414-379-7350. And that's Rob Kozier, all right? So that's May 24th, 2026. So y'all make sure y'all come to the tailgate. It's $20. It's $20. You got food, drink, you got a 50-50 raffle, and just be around a bunch of great people, all right? So I'm going to cover this one thing. Each week, if I get fan mail, I don't want to call it fan mail. That sounds kind of cheeseball. If I get, we'll call it love mail. If I get love mail, I'm going to read it to you, all right? Because it's what keeps me going. Like I said, man, you have some hard days. People just being mean to you. And, you know, I take that personal when people are mean to me. You know, it's hard for me to sleep at night. And my blood pressure gets up. And, you know, you just wonder, is this worth it? And it's this love mail that comes in that lets me know that, hey, everything that I've been doing for these last 3 years, educating, getting involved, going around the country, spending all my money, you know, you get this love mail and you're like, you know what? It is worth it. It is worth it. And so here's one I want to read to you because this touched me. You know, sometimes I get emotional when I read these things. This is one of those things here. And it's a guy named Matthew, God bless him. And he's got his little caricature in his profile. It looks like a guy that's red, got a postal hat on. He looks angry. And that's in his profile picture. It looks like some kind of kid cartoon maybe. And it says, I'm at, and gives me his address. Please, all caps, please come get that ass whipped. You think you're some tough guy. I'm 6'2", 280, bitch. Pick on someone your own size, like me. Come on, cowardly lion. We all make fun of you here in our branch. And I'm like, that's somebody who just needs a hug. You know, that's somebody that when you read that, you appreciate that, you know. I read it again. He gives me his address. It's about 700 miles from me. Please, all caps, please come get that ass whipped. That's sweet right there. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you being nice about it. Asking me please. You know, please come get that ass whipped. You think you're some tough guy. I'm 6'2", 280, bitch. Pick on someone your own size, like me. Come on, cowardly lion. We all make fun of you here in our branch. And so, brother, I appreciate that. More importantly, I appreciate your branch listening to me. That means a lot. Even though I don't get paid for downloads, it is good to know that branches are listening. Okay, so tell the people in your branch, thank you for listening to the show. All right, and I appreciate the invite. I really do. I'm traveling a lot. I'm sure it would be nice if I could drive up there 700 miles to get my ass whipped. And so it's those things. It's the small things that keep me going. Just like that. Just to let you know, Corey, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing, and people love you. People love you out there, and they appreciate you. They want to give you a spanking. And so, I'm not really into that stuff. I'm spoken for. I'm married, so spanking's not really my thing. But, hey, I appreciate it, my brother. I really do. Just the sentiment alone is special. On a more serious note, a lot of stuff going on social media. A lot of stuff going on social media. A lot of hatred on social media. And a lot of people don't like me. If you're on social media, you can tell. They don't like me. There are some that hold me responsible for this movement that's taken down the establishment. And they will say it, that I'm responsible. I don't believe that. I think I'm one of the voices that has brought about the movement. But the city letter carrier is a very smart individual. They understood at the TA what happened and what was going on. They understand incompetence. People that don't listen to me understand incompetence, understand what happened at the TA, and that we need to make a change. But there are those that hold me responsible for this movement. I'm not responsible. I'm a voice to the voiceless. I am their anger, and I will say that everywhere I go. But they will come out of the woodworks after me. I've always said, run somebody against me. If they win, they win. I'll carry mail for 6 more years and I'll retire. But they will come out of the woodwork after me. They've harassed my wife. They're going after my family. But one thing in particular, and I want to talk about it, that really set me off. And I can overlook a lot of things. Anything towards me, I don't care. Right? I've always said that. It does not bother me. Just like this sweet gentleman right here wanting to whip me, give me a spanking. That's neither here nor there to me. I don't consider that at all. But there are individuals, one that was talking about Mallory's baby and hoping that it came out with a birth defect because of who she chose to support. And that's where we are. That is where we are. When you lose the fight, you get into shit like that. Now, there is not a more common, low-down, sorry motherfucker than would say that they wished ill on an individual's unborn child at the time because of who they chose to support. That is a common, low-down motherfucker right there, and I will say it. Now, I don't know of anything worse than an individual that would put something out there about hoping that a young lady's unborn child would be born with birth defects because of who she votes for or who she chooses to support. I think that you're a true piece of shit to the 100th. I really do. I'll say this to those supporting the CLC. Do not ever have a CLC logo, have anything showing that you support the CLC, and talk about somebody like that. I do not want your vote if that is who you are. We are not about that. Now, we're going to go at it on social media. It's all over the place. There's a lot of hatred right now. All over the place there's a lot of hatred. A lot of motherfuckers hate me, and that's fine. But to attack a young lady and her unborn child is the most pathetic piece of shit I've ever heard of. If you're with a CLC and you do that, I do not want your vote. I do not want it. I will not have it around me. I will not. You don't like me? Fine. You think I'm an asshole? Good. But I will not tolerate that form of hatred for an individual, for simply having an opinion on who they're going to vote for. That's low down and common right there. So, y'all want to go at it on social media, have at it. It's ridiculous, you know. It's ridiculous, but I mean, that's what y'all feel like y'all need to do it. But to go after a young lady and her unborn child, to me, has crossed a line of just basic humanity. All right? Again, if you're voting for the CLC, do not do that. We will not be in the gutter. That's not where we're going to win this thing, is in the gutter. And they're wanting to drag us into the gutter because they've lost their message. They've lost the narrative. Okay? They're not going to win because of the labor law violations, so they're going to try to drag you into the gutter. Do not do that. That is not where we reside, is in the shitter, is in the fucking sewer. We're not going to do that. Let them stay there. All right? Let them stay there. But if you do it, and I see it, I will message you and tell you to take the CLC logo off the thing. We don't want your vote. We're not going to be that type of individual, all right? So, anyway, just touching on that a little bit. I'm going to get into these few things here. Two things in particular, but I've got just a handful. Some of them will be really quick. One of them's going to be quite lengthy because I've got a lot of MDOCs. So make sure that you get your pen and paper. All right? Make sure you get your pen and paper. And we're going to talk about it. Oh, there's a new podcast out. A new podcast. Shop stewards, Formula A's, DRT, arbitration advocates. Really anybody that wants to learn. Anybody that wants to be educated. There's a new podcast out getting fantastic reviews, and it's called the Key Cases Podcast. The Key Cases Podcast. Now, if you know what key cases are, when you look up arbitration sites, it will have a little thing that you can click on, key cases. That's the best of the best, those that represent the topic the best, okay? The Key Cases Podcast, and it's by Greg Rowe, R-O-W-E. The Key Cases Podcast by Greg Rowe. And if you know this individual, highly intelligent as far as the union is concerned. So the Key Cases Podcast by Greg Rowe. If you're wanting to learn, and you are, or else you wouldn't be listening to this. If you're wanting to learn, that is a fantastic podcast for you. The Key Cases Podcast by Greg Rowe. All right? And so a lot of people sent me that. They were listening to it. I listened to it. It is extremely good and educational. Okay? We're going to talk about emergency placement real quick. And then another thing, and then I'll be done with it. Somebody sent me this emergency placement the other day, and I said I will address it. Okay? And it says emergency placement, May 11th of 2026. This is official written notification that in accordance with Article 16.7 of the National Agreement, you are placed on an off-duty without pay status effective 5/6/2026. The reason for this action is unacceptable conduct, failure to follow instructions and obey a direct order. As a result of your actions, this caused an injury to another postal employee. Okay? And then it's got the 16.7 language, and then the appeal rights. You're not to report to work until further notice. You're not to enter the postal premises unless instructed otherwise. Then it's got the supervisor of customer service, their signature, and then it's got a concurrence by Kenneth Jones. Now, since it's got a concurrence, I would argue the concurrence, okay? They can't say, well, we don't require a concurrence. You concurred on it. All right, so we're going to talk to both of them. But that's not where this is going, all right? So remember, when you're dealing with 16.7 or any charge, all right, there has to be some form of specificity to it. You need to be specific because this is no different than the charge in court, and I'll give you that site in just a second. But here's the charge. For the reason for this action is unacceptable conduct. Failure to follow instructions and obey a direct order. Okay? As a result of your actions, this caused an injury to another postal employee. Now, failure to follow instructions and obey a direct order, failure to follow instructions, and obey a direct order, those are not covered under 16.7. Those are not provisions under 16.7 that can be violated. Those are disciplinary matters, failure to follow instructions, and obey a direct order. Those are disciplinary actions. Arbitrators will say that would be progressive discipline issues, right? That's not covered under 16.7. But it says, as a result of your actions, this caused an injury to another postal employee. Now, as an advocate, when I first start the hearing, I'm going to hand the arbitrator the 16.7. And I'm going to say, Mr. Arbitrator or Madam Arbitrator, here's the 16.7. If you can tell me what happened, where it happened, when it happened, what time it happened, based off of this 16.7, if you can tell me that, I will withdraw this grievance right now because it tells me nothing. I'll read it again. This is official written notification that in accordance with Article 16.7 of the National Agreement, you are placed on an off-duty without pay status effective 5/6. Well, 5/6 covers 24 hours, okay? 5/6 covers 24 hours. 24 hours in that day on 5/6, all right? Now, if it has to be immediate, which it does, I'll read that to you in just a second. If it has to be immediate, I need a time that whatever happened, happened. I need to know where it happened. Was it on the street? Was it on the workroom floor? Was it in the restroom? Was it out in the parking lot? I have no idea. Who, what, when, where, why? I want those things answered when I'm dealing with a 16.7. I've got an arbitration site. It's very old, 1982. Now write this down. Write this down, and this is for any discipline that you have a charge that you're going to attack the charge. It's Arbitrator Shedler, Schedler. Arbitrator Shedler, case number 01233. And this is one of my favorites, 01233. And I talk about this one all the time. A charge in a disciplinary matter has a similar meaning to an incident in a criminal matter before a grand jury. Basically, a charge is an accusation in writing that claims that the individual named therein has committed an act or been guilty by omission, and such act or omission was a violation of shop rules or usual good behavior expected of employee and punishable by discipline. A letter of charges is the foundation of going forward with discipline. No discipline can be sustained without a charge. For the instant grievance, the removal letter merely related in narrative style the events that the employer believed occurred on April 15th, 1981. So that is a fantastic decision. Also, when you look in Article 16.7, Article 16.7, you go down, it says written notice. Management is not required to provide advance written notice prior to taking such emergency action. However, an employee placed on emergency off-duty status is entitled to written charges within a reasonable period of time. It cites National Arbitrator Menthol. The fact that no advance written notice is required does not mean that management has no notice obligation whatever. The employee suspended pursuant to Section 7 has the right to grieve his suspension. He cannot effectively grieve unless he is formally made aware of the charge against him. He cannot effectively grieve unless he is formally made aware of the charge against him. The reason why management has invoked Section 7. So the reason I need a written charge is so that I can effectively grieve it. And I cannot effectively grieve it if you don't tell me what happened. If you don't give me some form of specificity. I've got an arbitrator decision here. It's Arbitrator Roberts. I use it all the time. And then I'll get another one tomorrow. There's another great one. I should have pulled it out. But I'll have it tomorrow for you when the wolf comes on. But this is from Arbitrator Lawrence Roberts. It's 30322. 30322. And this is a case, one of my very first cases back in 2012. One of the very first cases I had. And then I'm going to read a little bit of something for somebody that reached out to me the other day about the OIG. So stay tuned down there in Alabama. I got one for you. But he says this on page 7 of 8. Having reviewed the entire record and the testimony of all the witnesses, I'm at a loss myself as to what it was the grievant had done that led to him being put on the EP. The letter he received placing him on EP states the action was taken due to your alleged unacceptable conduct, fabrication of records to receive pay while not actually performing work for the United States Postal Service. But that does not say anything about what he did or when he did it. The union argued very convincingly that they were not given any specifics of the charges against the grievant. Therefore, it would have been impossible for the union to properly defend the grievant. The union's arguments in this case were substantiated by the record, the testimony of the witnesses, and the employer's inability to refute the union's arguments. For those reasons, the union arguments far outweighed those of the employer. The union prevailed on all three issues. And so that was my argument. That was one of those cases, it was probably my second case. It may have been my first case. That may have been my very first case in 2012. I think it was my very first case. But when I went in there, I did exactly that. I said, can you tell me, Mr. Arbitrator, what he did and when he did it? When management's witnesses came in there, I asked them the same. I said, I want you to look at this piece of paper right here. This is the 16-7. I said, I want you to tell me what day it happened. Well, it doesn't say. Can you tell me when it happened? No. What happened? Where it happened? No. You can't. They could tell me none of those things. And so that's what the arbitrator ruled on. You weren't specific. I got another fantastic site from Arbitrator Roberts that talks about that, so that you can't change the charge as it moves along. And that's the reason you need to have some form of specificity to the charge. That way, as it goes on, as y'all know, you can't change the charge on me. And they will do that. They'll give a charge and labor will be like, this charge is not good. And they will change the charge. But anyway, that's how I would beat this. There's no specificity to it. I don't know when it happened. It says I was put off on 5/6. But does that mean it happened on 5/6? Could have happened on 5/5. It just says you put me off the clock on 5/6. When on 5/6? If I work 12 hours, that's 12 hours of 5/6. And so you didn't tell me anything. And that's what's going to be my argument on that, all right? So you got a good decision there, and I'll give you some more tomorrow. 30322, 30322. And then there was another thing in here that I wanted to read out of the same case about the OIG. I had an individual reach out from down south, and he said, hey, I was just in a OIG investigation where they told me, hey, this is our investigation, you need to be quiet. Is that covered under Weingarten? It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And so this is also a good case for you. 30322, Arbitrator Roberts. He talked about at the very beginning, discussion and findings. Having reviewed the entire record, all the evidence and testimony, in this case, I'm convinced the union's procedural arguments are controlling. The union steward testified that he was told by an OIG agent that he had to be quiet or he would be asked to leave the room. In my opinion, that was a clear violation of the grievance Weingarten rights. On page 17.7 of the JCAM, regarding Weingarten rights, it states, in a Weingarten interview, the employee has the right to a steward's assistance, not just as a silent presence. The employer would violate the employee's Weingarten rights if it refused to allow the representative to speak or tried to restrict the steward to the role of a passive observer. And so that's exactly what happened. And so I would get that case and I would use that, okay? I'd use that in my defense, and also Article 17.7. So there's that. There's that. I also had somebody send me this, and this is just damn bizarre. And it makes me mad when I see this, because this should have been controlled a long time ago. And it goes back to 1983 when you allowed them to watch us by the scanners. And we've been getting our asses kicked ever since. Management has abused this more than anything else they've ever abused. And we've not done the first damn thing to curb it. But this person says, so my question is, management has told us on the workroom floor in the morning meetings that if we are stationary for more than 10 minutes, we have to send a message through the scanner of the place we were stationary and the reason why. Again, so my question is, management has told us on the workroom floor in the morning meetings that if we are stationary for more than 10 minutes, we have to send a message through the scanner of the place we were stationary and the reason why. And then it talks about other things about stationary. But to me, that's a violation of 134. Even if it's not going to be, even if your business agent or president are too fucking scared like mine to go forward with a 134 without discipline, saying that, hey, that's an instruction, just follow it. That's bullshit to me. That I'm going to have to sit there and snitch on my damn self. That's not part of my daily job. And so when you say that I've got to do, if I'm stationary more than 10 minutes, I've got to send a scanner message, I'm filing a grievance on that. I'm filing a grievance on it. It's a violation of 134. But what management wants to do is these lazy motherfuckers don't want to get out of their chair. Okay? I've always said the only time these motherfuckers will ever get injured is if they fall out of their chair, because that's where their fat asses are all the time. That's where they stay. But it's laziness is all it is. And when I look at section 134 of the M39 handbook, and this is what I'm talking about. It's very specific. It's very specific in 134. Let's not even pay attention to the spying or covert techniques. Let's not even pay attention to that, okay? It gives management very clear instruction. Now remember, the M39 and M41 were written before the scanners, okay? No mention of scanners. They're written before the scanners. And so they've not been updated, as far as I know. They could have been. Nobody's told me. But this is what it says as of today. All right? Street management. Now, this is management on the street. Like I've always said, if I'm going to file a grievance, I'm going to request my tax clock rings, and I'm going to show the arbitrator, this is the code for the office, and this is the code for the street. Once the code hits the street, they fall under 134 of the M39 handbook, street management. Objectives. Street management is a natural extension of office management. All carriers are to be notified to expect daily supervision on the street. Okay? Now what that tells me is that they have to be on the street. If I'm going to expect daily supervision on the street, that's what that means. You've got to get your fat ass up out the chair and come out there and watch me. Okay? So, are to be notified to expect daily supervision on the street, just as they receive daily supervision in the office. Okay? So, for a delivery manager to fully understand and control the organization, the manager must be aware of any conditions that affect delivery anywhere within the service territory. Now, when you talk about is there a rule, they will say that you failed to follow instructions. What instructions? To tell us when you're taking a stationary event longer than 10 minutes, what you're doing. And here's what I'm going to say. 134.12, accompanying carriers on the street. Now, accompanying carriers on the street means that you have to go with me on the street. Accompanying carriers on the street is considered an essential responsibility of management and one of manager's most important duties. Now, when you say duties, what does that mean? It does not mean sitting at the chair, at the table, on a computer, watching me. That's not duties. That's not accompanying me on the street. Your duties are as outlined, and I'm fixing to read their duties, okay? You got techniques. The manager must maintain an objective attitude in conducting street supervision and discharge his duty in an open and above board manner, which you're not doing when you're sitting out at your desk. Watch me on a computer. 134.22, the manager is not to spy or use other covert techniques. Any employee's infractions to be handled in accordance with the section in the current national agreement that deal with these problems. We're not talking about that. Here's what we're talking about. Criteria for need. Certain criteria may call attention for individual street supervision. When overtime or auxiliary assistance is used frequently on a route, foot, motorized, parcel, post, collection, relay. When a manager receives substantial evidence of loitering, and that's where we're going to get them. When a manager receives substantial evidence of loitering or other actions or lack of action by one or more employees, or when it is considered to be in the interest of the service, the manager may accompany the carrier on the street to determine the cause, or meet the carrier on the route and continue until such a time as the manager is satisfied. Now, if you're going to sit your fat ass at a computer and you see me sitting somewhere, or you observe these breadcrumbs or whatever, and it hits 10 minutes, according to this, if you receive substantial evidence of loitering or other actions or lack of action, what do? It is considered the best interest of the service. The manager may accompany the carrier on the street to determine the cause or meet the carrier on the route. It says nothing about have the carrier message me on the scanner. Doesn't say that. So I'm going to say that instruction is against the M39 Handbook Section 134 because it's clear what you must do. You're trying to circumvent your responsibility under 134. Why? Because you're too fucking lazy to do your job. That's why. You're too damn lazy to do your job. So what are you going to do? I'll just have them snitch on themselves. There's nothing in any handbook or manual that requires me to text you after I've sat for a certain period of time. There is no rule. They've made up a rule. So failure to follow instructions. Okay, what instruction? To use the scanner after 10 minutes to tell me what you're doing. There's no such thing. Their criteria for need is outlined in 134.3 of the M39 Handbook. All right? I'll read it again. When a manager receives substantial evidence of loitering or other actions or lack of action. Now, if you're saying I'm stationary, that's a lack of action according to you. Now, I'm always going to say I'm working. Okay? You know why? Because they're never going to bring their fat ass out there to show anything different. All right? So that's that. Now, let's get into the long portion of what we're going to talk about. Also, on that, I would use M1458. M1458, okay? If they're trying to push you, they're talking to you about you're staying out there too damn long, you got these stationary events, I'd also use 1458, even if it doesn't apply, if that makes sense, because it's going to show the arbitrator that what both parties feel about scanner data, MSPs. Okay, this is the last thing we have on this, so this is what we're going to use. M1458 talks about the Managed Service Points Initiative is a national program intended to facilitate management's ability to assess and monitor city delivery route structure and consistency of delivery service. The following reflects the parties' understanding of MSP. The parties agree that management will determine the number of scans on the city delivery route. Time credit will continue to be given during route count inspections and will be credited in total street time. MSP does not set performance standards. Okay, remember back when they're saying, hey, you had 5 minutes in between this scan and this scan. Yesterday you had 15. What's the problem? Why did it take you longer? This is the same thing. You're out there stationary for more than 10 minutes. What's going on here? So, MSP does not set performance standards, either in the office or on the street. With current technology, MSP records of scan times are not to be used as time card data for pay purposes. MSP data may not constitute the sole basis for disciplinary action. However, it may be used by the parties in conjunction with other records to support or refute disciplinary action issued pursuant to Article 16 of the National Agreement. And being as they never get their fat ass out of the chair and come watch us, we should always win that. Matter of fact, the carrier said that they had one go to arbitration and they beat it, okay, on stationary events. Here's the last thing. Now, when we talk about undertime and we talk about pivots, things like that, if I come in and there's a pivot board, I have no issue. You're going to pivot things. If I'm on the ODL, probably going to get a pivot. If I come in and there's undertime, pivots based off of undertime, I've got a problem. Okay? Because where are you getting that I have undertime? First off, I tell you if I've got it. You don't tell me. Okay? It's my route. I do all the work. Everything written protects the city letter carrier. Why? Because we do the work. We do the work. So everything written protects us. All right? So when I come in and there's a board saying, hey, we're pivoting these routes based off of undertime, as a shop steward, I'm going to put in a request for information. I'm going to ask, where are you getting the carriers have undertime? Under what report are you using? If you see that, it's PET and DOAS. Okay? If you see that, it's PET and DOAS. That's why. And so we'll agree that. When we get that information request, we'll put on there what you're using to determine that the carriers have undertime. And they're going to give you DOAS. They're going to say, well, based off the mail volume. We're going to cover all that. And I got this off of a scanner message that somebody sent me and tagged me in it. And this is what it says. Miss So-and-so, your return time is 2:15 p.m. Your return time is 2:15 p.m. Now, I have reporting requirements every day, okay? If I'm going to see that I'm going to be in an overtime status, I've got a reporting requirement. And so I'm going to go up to management and I'm going to say, hey, I need a 39.96. I'm going to be in overtime. That's the only reporting requirement that I have. It's the only one outlined in any handbook or manual. The only reporting requirement I have to management as far as my day is concerned is if I'm going to go into overtime. There is no requirement under any handbook or manual that requires me to tell them I have undertime. There's just not. If they tell you have undertime, it's based off of PET and DOAS. All right? So when it says, Miss So-and-so, your return time is 2:15 p.m., where are they getting that from? Okay? Because my reporting requirement is if it's 2:15 p.m., I'm going to say that I didn't start at 6. Okay? And so I'm going to ask, where are we getting this time at, this return time? It's in violation of a bunch of things. All right? We're going to go over them. We're going to go over them. I've got a lot of step fours right here for you. Okay? Write these down. Because I'm going to show you that everything written, now the response by her was perfect. This is what she said. I'll be back when I'm done working. And so that's the perfect response. Okay? I'll be back when I'm done working. But it says your return time is 2:15. I'm fixing to show you that everything written protects the city letter carrier. It protects us. Why? Because we do the work. We do the work. We're going to start out with M0005. M0005. And these are things that management's going to say, look, your mail volume doesn't call for this. I did a linear measurement and your mail volume didn't call for this. You had a foot yesterday, you got a foot today, and so you should be back at the same time. We're going to cover all these things, all right? M0005. The grievance mail was not counted to determine their efficiency in this instance. Data from the counts were not, nor will they be, used as a basis for disciplinary action. Consequently, the grievance case is considered to be closed. So when management comes out, now we're taking the brunt right now of everything. The losses, the billions of dollars of losses, and I'm going to cover a little bit of that Wednesday with something else somebody sent me. But the billions of dollars in losses, they're going to kick us in the ass for that, okay? Even though it's their fault, they're coming after us. They're coming after us. And so you have them, they'll say that you're not being efficient, or that you have a street standard, or that you're not performing as you should, and that you have a demonstrated performance. All these things are coming up. 5-minute PM office time. Had somebody sent me that. This is going to be the time where they lie the most. They're very good at it. They lie all the time. That's the reason James Henry said when we get in there, one of the first things he's going to do is implement the directive education to educate the workroom floor so that everybody understands what we're talking about. So that when management comes in there, the workroom floor is educated and we'll be able to file those grievances as far as 5-minute PM office time, things like that. Hour office time, all those things. So remember, the grievance mail was not counted to determine their efficiency. The only way management can determine our efficiency is to do a piece count in 1838C. The only way they can determine our efficiency is to do a count of mail, not a linear measurement. So if they say, hey, you have 4 feet today, yesterday you got back in 8, you got 4 feet today, you're going to need to be back in 8. No, because I have no street standard. We're going to get into that in a second. You didn't do an efficiency count on me. You're going to need to do an efficiency count to see if you're going to accuse me of not being efficient. Here's another one. M00304. M00304. Each of these cases involve a disciplinary action as a result of route management. In keeping with the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, it is understood that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. All right? There is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. That is why when I have a pivot based on undertime, I'm going to grieve it and put these things in there. I have no street standard. I don't know what's going to go on that day. I can't tell you what's going to happen that day. I know that if I get out on my route and I'm nearing the end, I can probably contact you and say, hey, it's looking like I'm going to have about 45 minutes of undertime. Is there something you'd like for me to do? Or is there a portion of route or somebody needs some help? We can do that. But that's when that's going to happen because I have no street standard. If I have no street standard, you cannot tell me that I've got undertime. I don't care what my volume is because every day is different. Every day on my route is different. So when I come in and I see undertime, pivots based off of undertime, I'll put that information request. Where are you getting that I've got undertime? Or these carriers on this route have undertime. Well, it's based off the data. What data? Where? DOAS. Okay. We got some things for that. But we have no street standard. I tell you if I've got undertime. You do not tell me. Why? Because M304 says that I have no street standard. Okay? That's why. M385. M385. Down at the bottom. It is acknowledged that the proper stipulated manner for determining the efficiency of an employee and whether or not the employee is in fact meeting standards is to conduct a one-day count as provided in handbooks M39 and M41. Under the certain circumstances presented in this case, it is not shown that such a formal approach was necessary or that management was seriously questioning the efficiency of the agreement. But there's another one. If you're going to gauge my performance or my efficiency, you have to do an efficiency count. All right? That's M385. Because if they start coming out saying, hey, you're not efficient or you're not performing up to standard, I'm going to use these step 4s. You've not done an efficiency count on me. If I get disciplined or if I get an investigative interview, I'm going to tell them, can you show me where you've done an efficiency count? We've not done one. Well, you need to question whether or not you're going to discipline this individual because I've got these step 4s here that talk about the only way you can gauge my performance or efficiency is to do an efficiency count. You've not done any. M829. M829. The question raised in this grievance is whether management may discipline a letter carrier for expansion of street time and or authorized overtime using data obtained by management during a one-day inspection of the carrier's route. After further review of this matter, we mutually agreed that no national interpretive issue is fairly presented in the particulars evidence in this case. On Article 16, no employee may be disciplined except for just cause. In this instance, the parties agree that a one-day count and inspection may not be used as the sole basis to establish a standard against which a carrier's performance may be measured for disciplinary purposes. I'm going to read that last portion and I'm going to tell you why this is important. This is M829. In this instance, the parties agree that a one-day count and inspection may not be used as the sole basis to establish a standard against which a carrier's performance may be measured for disciplinary purposes. Okay? We have no street standard. A one-day count does not tell about my demonstrated performance. I have no demonstrated performance. If management is saying that I have a demonstrated performance, use M829. Okay? I have no demonstrated performance. Every day is different. Why? Because I have no street standard. Every day is different. I have no street standard. Things happen. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you deliver for any period of time. And that's important because what PET does, PET will take an office time or street time. Okay? If you got 2 trays of DPS, your street time, let's just use 6 hours. 6 hours of street time. Okay? If you've done a $39.99 and you had 6 hours of street time, PET will take that as your street time. Okay? So I've got 6 hours of street time on my $39.99. And on my $39.99, when he went with me, I had 2 trays of DPS. Okay? If I come in and I have 10 trays of DPS, do you know what my street time is going to be under PET? 6 hours. It doesn't change. It doesn't fluctuate. If the day that they rode with me on a $39.99, I've got 17 parcels. Okay? If I've got 17 parcels and I come back, and another day I've got 200 parcels. Do you know what my street time projection under PET is? 6 hours. It never changes. Okay? It never changes. So, that's why this is important. Okay? That's why this is important. In this sense, the parties agree that a one-day count and inspection may not be used as a sole basis to establish a standard against which a carrier's performance may be measured. And that's what PET does. It takes a one-day count and it sets my performance standards. Okay? On this day you had 2 trays of DPS or whatever that piece count is. You had this many letters, this many flats, this many parcels. So from here until the end of time, your street time is 6 hours. Okay? Use M829. 829. And I'm sorry I sound like this, but shit, I'm getting bad quick. My voice is leaving me. I got a cold. M1444. M1444. The issue in this grievances is whether or not the piece count recording system, PCRS, projected office street time, POST, or the delivery operations information system, DOIS, violate the national agreement. After reviewing this matter, we mutually agreed to settle these grievances as follows. Daily piece counts, PCRS, recorded in accordance with the above referenced systems, POST or DOIS, will not constitute the sole basis for discipline. However, daily counts recorded in accordance with these procedures may be used by the parties in conjunction with other management records and procedures to support or refute any performance-related discipline. This does not change the principle that pursuant to Section 242.332 of the M39, no carrier shall be disciplined for failure to meet standards except in cases of unsatisfactory effort, which must be based on documented unacceptable conduct that led to the carrier's failure to meet office standards. Furthermore, the pre-arbitration settlement there provides that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. All right, so when you get a scanner message saying, hey, you're supposed to be back at 2:15, based off of what? Based off of what? Based off of our projections in the office, our linear measurements. Well, I have no set pace at which I must walk and no street standard for walking. I don't have a street standard. Okay? M1664. M1664. The Delivery Operations Information System, DOIS, is a management tool for estimating a carrier's daily workload. The use of DOAS does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41. The supervisor's scheduling responsibilities outlined in Section 122 of Handbook M39, or the letter carrier's and the supervisor's responsibilities contained in Section 28 of Handbook M41. DOAS projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. So when I come in and I say on a board, I've got these pivots based off of undertime, they're in violation of 1664. They're in violation. That is based off of a linear measurement at the time put into DOAS, and DOAS will tell them a projected leave time. Okay? We're going to grieve that. We're going to grieve that under 1664, and I've got others. But I'll read that last portion again. The use of DOAS does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41. So, when we talk about our reporting requirements, and I talked about that earlier, the only obligation I have to management is to tell them when I'm going into an overtime status. That is the only obligation I have. I have no obligation to tell them I have undertime. If they come around and ask how much undertime I have, I'll say, I have no idea. I'll let you know once I get to the street. If they demand it, I'm going to ask for my shop steward. Okay? They cannot. There's no obligation of me to tell them in the office that I have undertime. There's nothing written, no provision under any handbook or manual that says I'm obligated to tell management that I have undertime. The only obligation I have is under the reporting requirements of Section 131.4 of Handbook M41, and that's to tell them when I'm going to go over on my route based on my daily workload. Okay? And so remember that. If you've got something saying that you've got undertime, you've got a pivot in the office, I'm going to grieve those things. If they come around and say, hey, how much undertime you got today? I have no idea. I'll know better when I get to the street. I can let you know as I get into my route. But I have no idea. You've only got this. I have no idea. I'm not going to argue about it. I have no idea. Every day is different for me. And so when I get out there, I'll get a better picture of it and I'll let you know if I'm going to have any or not. Now, if you don't agree with that, what you can do is you can come out to me and you can supervise me on the street in accordance with Section 134 of the M39 Handbook. Now, if you think that I'm out there loitering or I'm out there fucking off, you're more than obligated to come out there and walk with me or ride with me, okay? But I'm not going to tell you I've got undertime because I don't know. Do I have less mail volume? Whatever. It's a linear measurement. But I have no idea if I have undertime until I get to the street and get into my route. Now, you can follow me. You can come out there and supervise me on the street. That's fine. I can expect that. Okay? So that's M1664. M1769. The issue in this grievance is whether the office efficiency tool used to project office and street time in the Greater Indiana District violates the national agreement. Now, when it says Greater Indiana District, that applies to everybody. It's a step 4, okay? It's an M document. I actually had the DRT member for Tennessee for labor. She said, this is honest, you can ask Jeremy McCall, our DRT person, when you see him, if you know him. She said that since that says Greater Indiana District, it only applied to the Greater Indiana District. And so she made that argument in her contentions at the DRT, Step B. Man, this cold's whipping my ass, y'all. I've got about 20 minutes of me editing out because I'm coughing so much. Now here's M1769, talking about the Greater Indiana District. The subject office efficiency tool is a management tool for estimating a carrier's daily workload. Now that's the same thing as PET and DOAS. The office efficiency tool used in the Greater Indiana District or any similar time projection system tools will not be used as the sole determinant for establishing office or street time projections. Accordingly, the resulting projections will not constitute the sole basis for corrective action. This agreement does not change the principle that, pursuant to Section 242.332 of Handbook M39, no carrier shall be disciplined for failure to meet standards except in cases of unsatisfactory effort, which must be based on documented, unacceptable conduct that led to the carrier's failure to meet office standards. Furthermore, as stated in the agreement for this case, there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. Projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. Okay? The use of any management created system or tool that calculates a workload projection does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of the M41 Handbook. Okay? So, again, they made it very clear, abundantly clear. Those systems, PET and DOAS, when it says that projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload, that's what we're going to use, okay? That's what we're going to use. When we come in, especially, and I've got that stuff on the board, talking about pivots and undertime. So you got your reporting requirements, Handbook M41, Section 131.41, 131.42, 131.43, 131.44, 45, 46, and 47. All right. Undertime is at the end of the day. Okay. It's not to be reported at the beginning of the day because I have no idea. Why? Because I have no street standard. Okay. There's no street standard. So that's for that scanner message. When you say I need to be back at 2:15, where are you getting that from? Is that a projection? Is that based off a linear measurement? And then helped you out to show you that everything written protects the city letter carrier. In the office, we're protected. It talks about projections, okay? You can't set my leave or return time based off of projections, based off DOAS and PET. If you're going to say that I'm inefficient, you got to do an efficiency count, okay? You can't use a one-day count to determine my performance. All right? My reporting requirements. I'm under no obligation to tell you when I have undertime in the office. No, there's nothing in any handbook or manual that says I have to inform you that I have undertime. Nothing. The only thing is my reporting requirements, and that's why I read it so many times. That's the only requirement I have. Reporting requirement is to tell you when I'm going to go into an overtime status. Even the 3996, and now somebody sent me something the other day. Matter of fact, let me read it. I may have already read it, but I'm going to read it again if I haven't. New PM is hell-bent on capturing supposed undertime and saying we should report undertime on a 3996. Would you say this instruction violates the M41 Section 131 reporting requirements? Yes. Okay. But the 3996 alone, it says carrier auxiliary control. K, estimated work, hours and minutes. L, auxiliary assistance. That's what you're going to take off of me. Or overtime. It does not say undertime. It says overtime. Why? Because the 3996 is for overtime. It's when I cannot deliver all the mail I have at my route in 8 hours. That's what a 3996 is for. They will lose that 100% of the time. 100% of the time. On the back it says, J, show the reason assistance is being requested. Assistance is being requested, not undertime. K, the carrier must enter the estimated hours and minutes of the amount of assistance being requested, not undertime being requested. Management action. This section is completed by the manager reviewing the form. The manager reviews the request and makes a determination as to the appropriate actions. The manager shall check the appropriate action and initial each section. Okay? And that's either auxiliary assistance or overtime. It says nothing about undertime. So there you have it. There's my episode. I got to get out of here. It's my anniversary. I love you. I love you, Light Blue. We're going to change the culture of this thing, okay? Both at national both at national and on the workroom floor. That's a promise from me to you. That's coming. James Henry has a very skillful plan. He talks about it wherever he goes. We talk about it. And so there'll be other slates coming out. I'm sure of it. You'll have the establishment slate. They're not just going to let us walk in there. You got people coming out of the woodwork right now, coming after James and I, because they know that they've lost. And they're blaming me for it partially, and I don't know why they're doing that. Hell, I'm just on here trying to educate people. But they'll come out now because they know that the fight has been fought and won. They're going to not get bloodied like we have been. Okay, they're going to come creeping in now saying, hey, I'm here. I'm here to save the day. Look at me. I need to be the president or whatever. I'm qualified or whatever. I don't care about qualifications if you're not willing to fight for change. And that's what we've been doing for 3 fucking years. We have been fighting for change. Change at the Postal Service on the workroom floor and with our union being cowardly as fuck. We've been fighting our asses off for change. And now you'll have people come in at the last fucking minute saying, hey, here I am. I've not gotten the first fucking thing done as far as fighting for change. But now that we see that the incumbent is going to get defeated, look at us. Look at us as an option. We're qualified. I don't give a fuck how qualified you are if you refuse to fight for the city letter carrier for change. If you've not been in the fucking streets like we have for 2 fucking years, trying to get this motherfucker turned over out of cowardice, the fucking shit show that's been going on up there, and you've been sitting out watching us in the fucking streets fighting, fuck off. That's all I can say, man. Shit, we've been out here fucking getting it, man. Trying to get this motherfucker turned around. People out there watching us, rubbing their chin. Okay, just about ready. He's just about defeated. Once they see, here we come. We want all the accolades. Fuck that. All right. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow. We got the Wolf, James Henry. He'll be on tomorrow, okay? And then Tyler Vass will be on Wednesday. And then I've got a lot of more stuff to talk about, so I'll do that probably Wednesday and cover a lot of stuff that I didn't cover tonight, okay? So, Light Blue, I love you. I love you, every one of you, all right? Just remember this. Stay above it. Do not get in the gutter. They are taking it into the gutter. Don't do it. That's not where we live. We are not those pieces of shit that are in the fucking gutter and the sewer. All right? Let those others do that. Do not lower yourself to that standard, okay? We're going to win this thing. Everybody knows that they have nothing left to talk about, so they're going to come after my wife, my family, unborn babies. Don't do that. I want nothing to do with you if that's where you got to go, okay? Let them do that over there, all right? We're better than that. I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow with the Wolf, all right? Bye.